Welcome to an ADD Woman podcast. I'm your host, Lacy Estelle, writer of all things about ADHD parenting and being an ADHD mother on Mothering the Storm with Lacy Estelle at lacyestelle.com. Here on an ADD Woman podcast, we're going to switch it up and talk about all things to do with ADHD as an adult woman and how we deal with it. Now you might be thinking, ADHD, women don't really have that. Actually, we do. We've all just been doing such a great job for years of masking it. So let's dive in. Let's talk about everything that our ADHD touches in our lives. And when I say everything, I mean everything. There is not one thing when you have ADHD that it doesn't affect. I'm so glad you're here. And if nothing else, I hope that you take away from this that you are not alone, you are not a failure, you are not lazy, and you are not stupid, and you are definitely not crazy. You just have ADHD, and you're just like me. Hi, my name's Lacy Estelle, and I am a mother of 3, bonus mom of 1. I'm a wife, Jesus follower, and one of the millions of women who live, thrive, and sometimes just barely survive having ADHD. I'm the writer and all things parenting ADHD kiddos connoisseur behind Mothering the Storm, aka lacyestelle.com, and now I'm deciding to serve my audience and the audience I have yet to meet through this podcast. So my goal for this podcast, which is like my goal for my blog, is to help you. Yes, you, the woman who has had ADHD her entire life and still seems to struggle to get out of bed in the morning or keep your car keys in the same place. Maybe you're the woman who spent her entire life feeling like a failure because things that came natural to everyone else just didn't to you. I want to help, but I also want to resonate with you and validate you. Because let's be real, ADHD isn't just something we have, it's something everyone around us who loves us has. As in, has to deal with and has to live with. And sometimes we don't even want to carry our own ADHD, let alone recognizing that we need our support system to help us carry it. So what are we going to discuss here? Well, I actually plan to discuss almost everything on this podcast, or everything you can think of. I think the truth is, as a woman who wasn't diagnosed with ADHD until I was 28 years old, which is only a mere 3 years ago, my life straight up made 0 sense. I mean, it made sense, as in it was filled with a lot of consequences from my poor choices, but regardless of the hard lessons I would learn, I never seemed to be able to just make things click together like so many of my peers. Things? What things? Everything. If you have ADHD, you know it touches every single aspect of our lives, our work, our relationships, our finances, our emotions, our PMS, for crying out loud, and also ADHD even collided with my faith. Hard. So while we are primarily here to discuss ADHD or ADD, ADHD is the thing in our lives that is touching everything else. So we're going to discuss it all. Why am I choosing to only talk to women? Because I'm a woman. I talk about raising ADHD kids, primarily my 2 diagnosed ADHD boys, on my blog, Mothering the Storm. But as a woman with ADHD, my symptoms can be so different than theirs. And I find I've also spent my entire life masking those symptoms because of my womanhood. While my boys can bounce on a ball all day long and no one bats an eye because they are quote-unquote boys, as a woman, I was labeled lazy, dramatic, or chatty, which is just ironic because now I'm recording a podcast, which made me think I was broken. That's actually kind of putting it lightly. But us women with ADHD, we aren't broken. We are different. We are creatives, thinkers, doers. And if we're real honest, we are CEOs, MBAs, and PTO president. But we see things differently and we do things differently, and different than boys and men, and that deserves its own voice. So why are you here? Well, maybe you have ADHD. Maybe you don't have ADHD. Maybe your sister has ADHD or your cousin's brother's mom. Maybe it's your daughter. Or like me, it's your son or sons. Maybe someone suggested you listen to this podcast because you are always late or lose your keys several times a day, or you can't seem to figure out how to keep your house picked up regardless of how hard you try. I'm not here to diagnose you or even tell you whether you should get diagnosed. But if you've ever felt like the adult that seems to not understand how to adult properly, then you should give this a listen. I can't fix you, but I can help you put the puzzle pieces of yourself back together in a way that makes you realize the masterpiece you truly are, without trying to fit yourself into the world's box. ADHD women were born to break the box, or cut it up and turn it into a rocket ship, or draw all over it and color all over it and then flip it upside down and make it a stage. One way or another, we are definitely way less boring than just a plain old square box. That is going to wrap up this episode of an ADD Woman podcast. What did you think? How do you feel? I would love to hear from you. And if any of the things I just said are of interest to you, I'd strongly recommend that you check out the blog, which is hosted at lacyestelle.com. On there, I talk about all things ADHD parenting when you're an adult with ADHD as well, and how to deal with it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Love to hear what you think, and I'll be talking to you guys soon.